There comes a moment in life when everything seems to collapse at once, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, relentlessly, from every direction. One day you wake up and realize that what once felt stable no longer holds. The job you trusted becomes uncertain. The relationship you relied on grows distant. Your health, your finances, your sense of direction, each begins to crack in small, unsettling ways. And the most frightening part is not the loss itself. It is the feeling that you are losing control. You try to fix everything at once. You think faster. You worry harder. You replay conversations in your mind, imagining different outcomes, different choices, different versions of yourself who might have prevented this moment. But the harder you grasp, the more anxious you become. Your breath shortens. Your thoughts scatter. Sleep becomes shallow. Peace feels like a distant memory. This is the moment many people believe they are failing. But in Stoicism, this moment has a different meaning. The Stoics believed that life falling apart is not a sign that something has gone wrong. It is a sign that reality is revealing itself. Marcus Aurelius once wrote that we suffer not because events are unbearable, but because we judge them to be so. Epictetus taught that distress does not come from things themselves, but from the opinions we form about them. When life falls apart, what truly collapses is not the world outside. It is the illusion that we were ever in control of it. And this illusion is comforting until it breaks. You see, calmness is not something the Stoics believed we achieve by escaping chaos. Calmness is what remains when we stop fighting what cannot be changed. Imagine standing in the middle of a violent storm. The wind howls. The rain lashes against your skin. You cannot stop the storm by shouting at it. You cannot calm it by resisting it. But you can change how you stand within it. The Stoic path begins here, not by fixing life immediately, but by stabilizing the mind that experiences it. Most people, when their life falls apart, ask the wrong question. They ask, "How do I make this stop?" The Stoic asks instead, "What part of this is truly mine to govern?" This single shift changes everything. Because the Stoic understands that peace is not the absence of problems. It is the absence of inner resistance to reality. You may lose your job. You may face betrayal. You may experience illness, uncertainty, or loneliness. None of these mean that your inner calm must disappear with them. Calmness, in the Stoic sense, is not numbness. It is clarity. It is the ability to see events as they are, without adding fear, panic, or unnecessary suffering. When life falls apart, emotions will rise. Sadness may appear. Anger may flare. Fear may whisper stories about the future. The Stoics never denied these emotions. They simply refused to let them rule. They trained themselves to pause, to observe, to separate what happens from what it means. This introduction is not meant to promise you comfort. It is meant to offer you grounding. Because before you can rebuild anything outside, you must first learn how to remain steady inside. And that is what the Stoic way is truly about. Not controlling life, but mastering your response to it. 5s. When life begins to fall apart, the mind instinctively searches for stability. It looks for something solid to lean on, something external that promises safety. Money, relationships, reputation, plans for the future all begin to feel like lifelines. And when these lifelines weaken or disappear, fear enters quickly. Stoicism offers a different response. It teaches that calm does not come from securing the outside world, but from strengthening what lies within. The Stoics believed that every person carries an inner fortress, a place untouched by chaos, loss, or uncertainty. This fortress is not imaginary, and it is not built through positive thinking. It is built through disciplined thought, clear judgment, and acceptance of reality as it is. At the center of Stoic philosophy lies one essential distinction. Some things are within our control, and some things are not. This idea is simple, but it changes the way a person experiences life. What lies within your control are your judgments, your values, your intentions, and your actions. What does not lie within your control are outcomes, other people's choices, external events, and the passage of time. When life falls apart, suffering increases the moment we try to control what was never ours to command. Much of human anxiety comes from this confusion. We demand certainty from an uncertain world. We expect fairness from circumstances that do not promise it. We exhaust ourselves trying to manage forces far beyond our reach. The Stoic does not deny reality or retreat from life. He learns to place each thing in its proper category. External events are treated as facts, not as threats to identity or worth. They are observed clearly without adding unnecessary judgment. Calmness in Stoicism is not emotional suppression, it is emotional order. Feelings still arise: fear, anger, sadness, disappointment, but they are not allowed to rule the mind. Imagine a lighthouse standing on a rocky shore. Storms crash against it. Waves rise and fall. The wind howls without mercy. The lighthouse does not attempt to stop the storm. It does not argue with the sea. It simply stands grounded in its foundation. The Stoic mind is built the same way. It remains steady, not because life is gentle, but because it is prepared for difficulty. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself each morning that he would encounter selfishness, ingratitude, and injustice. This was not pessimism, it was training. By expecting difficulty, he removed its power to surprise and destabilize him. Stoic calm is an active discipline. It requires practice, repetition, and patience. It asks the mind to pause before reacting, to question its first impressions. Is this within my control? If it is not, then resisting it will only deepen suffering. If it is, then it deserves careful and rational action. When life falls apart, emotions often feel overwhelming. Fear imagines a future filled with disaster. Anger searches for someone to blame. Sadness whispers that what is lost will never return. The Stoic listens to these emotions, but does not obey them blindly. He understands that emotions are responses, not commands. They provide information, but they do not decide his character. True calm is not found by numbing oneself. It is found by clarity. By seeing what is happening without distortion, without exaggeration, without self-pity. Each time you choose reason over impulse, the inner fortress grows stronger. Each time you accept reality instead of fighting it, the mind becomes steadier. Each time you focus on your conduct rather than the outcome, peace becomes more durable. Life may still break, plans may still fail, people may still disappoint, but the Stoic understands that inner stability does not depend on external order. The Stoic insight is demanding because it removes excuses. You cannot control the storm, but you can control how you stand within it. And when the world around you begins to fall apart, This inner strength is what remains. Your fertile faves. When calm is tested in real life, understanding Stoic principles is one thing. Living them when life collapses is another. Calmness feels natural when conditions are gentle, when plans work, when people behave as expected. The true test of Stoic calm appears when reality no longer cooperates. Life rarely falls apart in one dramatic moment. More often, it unravels slowly. A series of disappointments, a chain of small losses, a growing sense that things are no longer moving in the direction you hoped. At first, you try to stay composed. You tell yourself that everything will be fine, but as pressure builds, the mind begins to react. This is where Stoic reflection becomes essential. The Stoics taught that the first impression of an event is rarely accurate. What feels unbearable at first often becomes manageable once examined calmly. Between what happens and how you respond, there is always a moment of choice. When life falls apart, this moment may feel very small, almost invisible. But it is there. You may receive unexpected news, a message that changes your plans, a decision made by someone else that affects your future. In that instant, the body reacts before the mind has time to reason. The heart races, the stomach tightens, the breath becomes shallow. Stoicism does not ask you to deny this reaction. It asks you to notice it. Reflection begins with awareness. You observe what you are feeling without immediately judging it. You recognize fear as fear, anger as anger, sadness as sadness. You do not tell yourself a story yet. You do not decide what it means. Most suffering comes not from events themselves, but from the stories we attach to them. We imagine permanent damage, total failure, irreversible loss. The mind rushes ahead of reality. The Stoic slows this process down. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" the Stoic asks, "What is actually happening right now?" Instead of asking, "How do I escape this feeling?" the Stoic asks, "Can I endure this moment with clarity?" Real calm is not dramatic. It is quiet. It shows itself in small decisions, in choosing not to react immediately, in choosing not to say the first thing that comes to mind, in choosing not to panic. Consider a person who loses something important, a job, a relationship, a sense of certainty. The loss itself is real. Pain is natural, but the Stoic reflects before adding more suffering. He asks, "Is this loss destroying my character or only my expectations? Is my worth diminished or only my comfort?" This kind of reflection changes the emotional weight of events. It does not remove difficulty, but it prevents collapse. Stoic calm is not something that appears suddenly when life falls apart. It is something built quietly, long before crisis arrives. Like strength in the body, it is developed through consistent practice, not through hope alone. When life becomes unstable, the Stoic does not invent new tools. He returns to simple disciplines he has already trained. These practices are not dramatic, but they are powerful. The first practice is controlling attention. Most distress grows because the mind runs far ahead of the present moment. It imagines futures that have not happened and relives past moments that cannot be changed. The Stoic trains himself to return attention to what is directly in front of him. What is happening right now? What is required of me in this moment? What action is reasonable, calm, and within my control. By narrowing attention, the mind becomes steadier. Anxiety weakens when it no longer feeds on endless possibilities. The second practice is separating action from outcome. Many people lose calm because they attach their sense of worth to results. Success brings relief. Failure brings collapse. The Stoic refuses this dependence. He focuses on effort, not outcome. He asks whether his action is honest, thoughtful, and aligned with his values. Once the action is taken, the result is accepted without resentment. This practice protects the mind from despair. You can lose without being defeated. You can fail without becoming broken. Another essential practice is negative visualization. The Stoics regularly imagine loss, difficulty, and disruption, not to become fearful, but to become prepared. By calmly considering that things may not go as planned, the Stoic reduces shock when they do not. Loss becomes familiar rather than overwhelming. Gratitude grows when nothing is taken for granted. This practice also builds resilience. When you accept that change is inevitable, you stop clinging to fragile expectations. You learn to stand firmly even as circumstances shift. The Stoic also practices voluntary discomfort. Small acts of restraint strengthen the ability to endure larger challenges. Skipping comfort when it is available, choosing simplicity over excess, enduring mild inconvenience without complaint. These acts are training. They remind the mind that it can survive without constant ease. When life removes comfort without warning, the Stoic is not shocked. Daily reflection is another pillar of calm. At the end of each day, the Stoic reviews his actions. He observes where he reacted poorly and where he remained steady. There is no self-hatred in this reflection, only honest assessment. By reflecting daily, mistakes become lessons rather than sources of shame. Progress becomes visible. Calm becomes more consistent. Stoic calm is also maintained through speech discipline. When life falls apart, words often amplify chaos. Complaints multiply, blame spreads, panic becomes contagious. The Stoic chooses silence when speaking would add confusion. When he speaks with restraint. This does not mean suppressing truth. It means expressing it without drama or excess emotion. Another practice is remembering scale. Many events feel catastrophic only because the mind shrinks its perspective. The Stoic reminds himself of the vastness of time and nature. Human problems, while painful, are rarely permanent. This reflection reduces urgency. It creates space between the event and the emotion. Calm returns when the mind steps back. The Stoic also practices gratitude during difficulty, not gratitude for pain, but gratitude for what remains intact. Health that still functions, character that remains unbroken, the ability to choose one's response. Gratitude grounds the mind. It prevents despair from consuming everything. Applying Stoic calm does not require perfection. You will fail at times. You will react emotionally. You will feel overwhelmed. The Stoic path allows this. It asks only that you return to practice again and again. Each moment of restraint strengthens calm. Each moment of reason weakens fear. Each deliberate choice builds inner stability. When life falls apart, these practices become anchors. They do not stop loss, they do not erase pain, but they prevent collapse. Calm, in Stoicism, is not a feeling, it is a way of living. And through daily practice, it becomes something you can rely on, even when everything else is uncertain. Brett time, 0.8. After reflection and practice, the Stoic reaches a quiet understanding. Calm is not something to chase, and it is not something to force. It emerges naturally when the mind stops struggling against reality. Many people believe that calm will come once life becomes orderly again, once problems are solved, once stability returns, once uncertainty disappears. Stoicism reverses this belief. It teaches that calm must come first before life can be faced clearly. Integration means allowing Stoic principles to guide behavior without constant effort. They become habits rather than techniques. Responses soften, reactions slow. The mind no longer searches desperately for control. When life falls apart, the Stoic no longer asks how to make it stop. He asks how to live well within it. This shift changes the quality of every experience. Integration begins with acceptance, not passive acceptance, and not surrender, but a clear acknowledgement of what is real. Resistance fades when reality is faced honestly. The Stoic understands that fighting reality wastes energy. Complaining does not change outcomes. Anger does not restore what is lost. Fear does not protect the future. Acceptance frees the mind to act wisely. When energy is no longer spent resisting what cannot be changed, it becomes available for what can. Another part of integration is aligning identity with character rather than circumstance. Many people define themselves by roles, success, or external approval. When these collapse, identity collapses with them. The Stoic defines himself by values: integrity, courage, fairness, self-control. These remain available in every situation. When life falls apart, character becomes the anchor. Even in loss, the Stoic can still act with dignity. Even in uncertainty, he can still choose restraint. Even in pain, he can still maintain respect for himself and others. Integration also requires patience with the self. Calm does not arrive fully formed. It grows unevenly. Some days are steady, other days are difficult. The Stoic does not demand perfection. He expects setbacks. He understands that progress is not linear. When emotions overwhelm him, he returns to fundamentals. Breathing slows. Attention narrows. Judgment is suspended until clarity returns. This return itself is integration. It is not failure. It is practice continuing. Another sign of integration is reduced urgency. Life may still feel serious, but it no longer feels desperate. Decisions are made with care rather than panic. Silence becomes easier. Stillness becomes familiar. The Stoic no longer feels the need to explain or justify every difficulty. He allows events to be what they are. This quiet confidence is often misunderstood by others. Integration also changes relationships. When the need for control fades, expectations soften. Disappointment decreases. Compassion increases. The Stoic understands that others act according to their own understanding. He does not demand that they behave differently to protect his peace. He adjusts his own expectations instead. As integration deepens, calm becomes resilient. It is no longer fragile. It does not depend on good news or favorable conditions. It remains present even when circumstances remain unresolved. Life may still be uncertain. Plans may remain unclear. Outcomes may remain unknown. But the Stoic stands firmly within this uncertainty, not because he knows what will happen, but because he trusts his ability to respond well. This is the heart of Stoic calm. Not the promise of comfort, but the confidence of endurance. When life falls apart, integration allows the Stoic to continue living with purpose. Work is done carefully, relationships are handled with patience, moments are lived fully without clinging. Calm becomes a way of being, not a temporary state. And once this integration takes root, life no longer needs to be controlled in order to be faced. Brett time. There comes a quiet moment after everything has fallen apart. Not the moment of shock and not the moment of fear, but the moment when you realize that life continues, whether you are ready or not. This is where Stoic calm reveals its true value. The Stoic does not promise that life will become easy. He does not expect certainty, fairness, or comfort. He understands that life moves according to its own rhythm, not according to personal wishes. What he seeks instead is steadiness. When life falls apart, the world may look unfamiliar. Paths once clear may disappear. Plans may dissolve without warning. People may change, or leave, or disappoint. The Stoic accepts this without bitterness. Not because it does not hurt, but because resistance would hurt more. Calm, in the Stoic sense, is not something you feel only when everything is fine. It is something you carry when nothing is fine. It is the ability to stand without collapsing, to move forward without rushing, to endure without becoming hardened or resentful. The Stoic understands that nothing external can give lasting peace, and nothing external can take it away unless he allows it. He no longer waits for the storm to pass in order to live well. He learns to live well within the storm. This does not mean indifference. It means clarity. It means choosing reason when emotion demands reaction. It means choosing dignity when fear urges compromise. When life falls apart, many people search for answers outside themselves. The Stoic turns inward, not to escape, but to ground himself. He remembers that his thoughts remain his own. His actions remain his responsibility. His character remains intact regardless of circumstance. This realization brings quiet strength. Calm becomes less about controlling the world and more about governing the self, less about avoiding pain and more about carrying it wisely. The Stoic path does not remove difficulty. It removes unnecessary suffering. Life may still challenge you. Uncertainty may still surround you. Loss may still appear without warning. But you are not required to meet chaos with chaos. You can meet it with steadiness, with patience, with self-respect. This is the calm that does not depend on outcomes, the calm that remains when answers are unavailable, the calm that endures when life refuses to make sense. In the end, Stoicism does not teach you how to stop life from falling apart. It teaches you how to remain whole when it does, and that is enough.